So I was at a academic conference very recently, and I couldn't help but sort of snicker or think about the irony of the stuff that we actually study. And the reason is that everybody was sitting there. I'd walk by people, and I can hear them talking about what it actually takes to become successful. You got to publish here and do this, and all of this sort of conniving thing. And then I would walk by another group and they'd be talking about the same thing, all of this sort of wiggling around and this is what you need to do, and this person got this kind of publication, you just got to write things out in this kind of certain way, and everything is going to be beautiful and hunky-dory. And the irony is, when I was thinking in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, this is totally playing out the way that we actually talk about what it means to be successful in this world. And what's happening is that everybody else is playing this competitive game. And what happens is when everybody's playing a competitive game, it erodes the success that you're ever going to have. So, what does it take to actually become successful? This is the sort of challenging thing. And the answer is that there's no real one thing that you can possibly do. There's not one little conniving thing that you could do. There's not one rule. There's nothing like that. And it is such a difficult and challenging thing that most of us actually face. But there's one thing that's a boring answer that nobody likes, that when I tell people this, they run away. I usually get like, oh my gosh, and then they walk away. Then I get bad teaching ratings because of this and all of that kind of stuff. And the answer is really simple. Just do hard work for a very long time. And that is such a basic, simple answer. But the trouble is when you actually put it in paper, when you start looking at it, when you actually do it, it's a very, very difficult thing to actually do. To sustain yourself doing hard work in a particular area that is difficult to do, nobody likes to do that hard work. We're biologically programmed to not want to do that. We're human beings, right? We're an organism that we like to do things as easy as possible. Now, the other thing is the secret of, what is the secret? It's a big secret. Nobody knows about this thing. In fact, all of the things that make money in this world are really, really well known. Everybody knows about those things. All the careers that make a lot of money, everybody knows about them. Go into become a dentist, become a doctor, become a neurologist, whatever, right? Like all these kind of things. But then when you put it into practice, when you look at it, you realize, oh my gosh, this is brutal. This takes an awful lot of work to get there. It requires a tremendous amount of sacrifice. And then once you get there, it's just a bunch of work repeatedly. So all of it it's the generation of value actually takes a significant amount of work, and there's no sort of hacky kind of way to get there, no matter how you cut it. Maybe you are, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, right? You're in the trucking industry, you have a corner store. The answer is always the same. It's getting up really early, doing a lot of work for a long time. I was just in Italy for this summer, and there was this really successful bakery in this tiny little town. And there was people lined up all the time. Every time we go there, it's this little bakery. There's always people lined up, people coming and going. And the person that was running it, she was a 75-year-old Italian lady, typical what you'd imagine like a grandma to be, but she was there the whole time. She was there at 4 a.m. and she would close the place down at 10 p.m. And it's this act of doing things over and over and over again is the way that it actually becomes successful, that people know what you're doing, the craft of what you're actually doing. And no matter what area, what you're trying to do, it's always the same thing. Everybody knows these rules to riches, but they're just damn hard to do, right? Like I think about, man, I should learn how to do this particular thing, right? Like I want to learn how to get my CFA, for example, but I'm just too darn lazy to get my CFA, Certified Financial Analyst, because it takes an awful lot of work. But I know it would probably help me out and be a benefit in the long run. But all of that just takes a lot of work. And so none of this, there's no rules, nothing like that. It's all out in the open. Everybody knows about it. But it just requires you to get up and get going and do that thing every day. And so all of the conniving and all of the planning and all of that sort of, this is the way you do it, none of that stuff works. It really doesn't. It's just get up and do the same thing every day and do it for a long time and put in the effort, smile as you're doing it, take a portion of all of the revenue that you generate, sock it away someplace, and invest in other people that are doing the same thing. That's it. That's the name of the game. And it's just this repetition, and it doesn't happen. A decade is too short, right? When I tell you how long that this takes, a decade is far too short. It is 3 decades, it is 4 decades, 5 decades of doing this repeatedly and not screwing up along the way that actually generates that value that everybody is looking for, that everybody seeks, and that people are like, wow, that's successful. When they don't realize is it took an unbelievable amount of work to actually get there. In fact, maybe we do realize it, but we don't want to hear that answer. And that's probably why nobody wants to look at me whenever I say just do hard work for a long time and don't be silly along the way. That's it. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day.